And welcome back. We're having a great discussion today on today's History Upper Ohio Valley. I wanted to bring up something that we've talked about in the past that is going on right now in St. Clairsville, Ohio, a big discussion about water, how government works and handles trying to sell the water, and how the public, many people in St. Clairsville are not happy with this deal, and questions are being asked. And we have a great guest here, Kathryn Thalman.
How do you do? Thank you for having me here
Nice
today.
to have you.
Thank you.
It's great. I wanted to tell you, I'm really pleased that you're doing this.
Thank you.
Because the private person who steps in and speaks up to government is what this government's supposed to be about.
I appreciate that. I will say that I've never really been involved in government in any way, shape, or form in a long, long time. But this has piqued my interest, and this is something very visceral to me. Again, after air, I don't think any of us has a more precious commodity than our water. And I want to know that before our water is sold to a company called Aqua, that we have a transparent process, that every other option has been explored, and that I want it to be as transparent as the water is to drink, the clean, pure water.
You just got involved because this is something that is interesting to you, and you know it affects you, so you're stepping up to take a stand.
It was kind of odd the way it happened, that about 2 months ago, the citizens of St. Clairsville received a letter telling us that our water was not potable toward the end of February, and this letter came in April. And I was pretty upset about it because in the letter it said, if you have any medical conditions, talk to your doctor before drinking this water. Well, this was 2 months after the fact.
Wow.
I'm diabetic, and I was pretty upset. Well, have I ingested protozoa, fungi, bacteria, what? So I tried to call the city building, and no one answered. So I went up, and I started to talk to Kathy Kaluger, and I saw that the mayor's office door was open. I barged in, and I said, you don't know me, but my name's Kathryn Thalman. I want you to explain this to me. What was wrong with the water? And it shocked him, and I think took him aback a bit, because when I get on a stand, I can be very firm. And as it turned out, we sat and talked for about 20 minutes, and he graciously asked me to be on a committee that was coming to approve a bid to improve our water. And I was happy to do it. I thought, wow, I've never done something like this. But as a private citizen on a committee, maybe I can help everyone in St. Clairsville, because that's what I'd like to do.
Oh, okay. So nobody contacted you. You actually contacted them and ended up on the committee.
That's exactly what happened. Very serendipitously, yes.
Well, actually, it's a good thing that you're there and that you took the steps, because too many of us don't get involved. That's why our government runs amok.
Well, it's sort of like, and I don't remember the admiral's name after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese admiral, but they said, what did you think of this? And he said, I fear that all we have done is awakened a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve. Because once I got on this committee and read the proposal that was coming, I had a lot of questions. And I went to the meetings, and I would ask questions, and they were not answered to my satisfaction, such as, is there a buyback clause? Why is there only one bidder? And that bothered me. And will we have the ability to hold them accountable? And there was a rate schedule posted that they anticipate and how they expect to raise the rates. But then in the language of it, it says, well, there will be miscellaneous tariffs, miscellaneous charges. And I spoke to a friend of mine who is an attorney, and he said, well, that could mean that if you have a fire in your house, maybe Aqua's going to charge you $500 for opening the tap. Do you know that? And I said, well, no, I don't. And I asked these questions, and all I was told was this will all get hammered out by attorneys. And I said, well, then why are we here looking at a bid that could potentially end up being nothing resembling of what I was here to look at?
Yeah, let's hold right on that
Sure.
thought, because that's an important thing, what you just said. They're saying that this will be hammered out by attorneys after the bid goes out.
Yes.
That seems to be putting the cart before the horse. Why would you go out to bid if your attorneys hadn't already worked it over with what you want?
Well, I asked that. In fact, I said, has Mr. Miser, the city attorney, looked at this yet? No, he's on vacation. I said, how can we possibly be evaluating a bid that hasn't been hammered out by the attorneys. I want to be looking at something that is finished so I can say the finished product is passable or not. That was not the case. Again, I've been in business 40 years, and what I said to the mayor is the devil is in the details. And I'm sure all of us have bought things on Amazon. And I said to him, I might go buy something for $5, but they might charge $40 of shipping. And that's what I think we have here. Oh, yes, we'll keep our rate schedule here, but we're going to charge you this much of a miscellaneous charge, a tariff, and we don't know what those are. So I still have many questions that have yet to be answered.
Yeah, you're raising the right questions.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You really are. I've looked into some of these kind of issues related to other things in the past, and those are the things that matter. If the attorneys haven't looked this contract over and it hasn't been approved by them that includes everything that's in the city's interest, then they had no business putting that contract out.
Well, I feel the same way. And again, I don't know a lot about how government works, but I've certainly been in business for 40 years. I've worked for multinational companies, and I know that if you're going to accept the contract, I mean, even as a homeowner or as an insurance buyer or whatever, you read over the contract, and this is what it is, and that's what I'm signing off on. So I do have concerns that we were looking at this without it being the final product.
Well, that makes sense. Are there other people on this committee?
Yes, there are. There were 2 city engineers, Mr. Zuckel, the mayor, Bill Brooks, who's another citizen, and myself. And I'm forgetting one person. I can't remember who it is.
Another city person?
Another city. There were 5 city people. Oh, Tim Porter. Yeah, president of council. So there were 5 city people and 2 citizens.
So there are 2 of you from representing basically
everyone in the city of St. Clairsville, yes.
Outside of the elected and
yes.
appointed people in business. I think that's important to understand too. Are any of these other people who work for the city raising these concerns?
No, basically it was just Mr. Brooks and I asking questions, and we had to fill out a sheet at the end to evaluate the bid, and I held it up and I said, this is French farce. I said, how can I potentially evaluate something we don't know the specifics of? And the mayor collected them anyway, so I don't know what has happened to those. I think they were to be presented to council, so I don't know how anyone else has voted at this point. But again, I'm concerned that only 1 bid was received, and it makes me ask the question, were the parameters of the bid so specific that maybe no one else even qualified to bid except Aqua? I just don't understand that.
Yeah, that is odd that only 1 company would bid on this contract. Have you talked to any other companies that might have been interested and decided not to
Yes,
bid?
actually, I spoke to someone from another company, and he said that's basically that the parameters were so specific that no one else could fulfill the parameters other than Aqua. And the time frame for the bid, it went out at the end of April, and it was to be returned May 31st. And again, I know very little about government, but if you're looking at a project of that magnitude, is 1 month's time appropriate to be able to submit a bid of that size, to be able to say, here is a very specific 10-year capital improvement program? I can't imagine that anyone could get this together in a month.
Yes, it seems that there's a rush to get this out and done.
It feels like it. And again, I've not been real familiar with the government process, but to me, it feels like a project of this importance and magnitude is trying to be rushed through. And again, it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, it seems to me that something this enormous where every citizen is involved, virtually everybody gets water. And that should be something that takes not a month, but more like a year.
Well, and again, I think Aqua has been here evaluating our system for quite a period of time, which I don't quite understand how they could be doing this and yet no one else had the time to do an appropriate bid. So again, these are questions. I don't know. But I do know that this has gotten a lot of attention. I certainly never was trying to be a crusader, but this is very, very important to me. And I'm now a senior citizen, And I know that St. Clairsville has a lot of senior citizens that wouldn't have the ability to move if our water becomes bad. Let's face it, Flint, Michigan was in the news last year. They were poisoning people. And again, this is very much a very visceral thing. Water is something that goes above Democrat, Republican, Libertarian. This is something, 98% of our bodies are made up of water. And I don't want mine to be rubber stamped aqua until I know it's the right thing.
Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. What do you think selling water system to outside company will do? What do you think the effects of that's going to be?
Well, again, it may be the right thing. I am not closed-minded to that, but I want to know that they are the best company. I want to know that the county, the option of having our water provided by the county just got a $72 million grant to improve its water system. And from what I understand, there's a wheel down by our plant where they could just tap us into county water. And my concern is the call center for complaints for Aqua is in Kankakee, Illinois. Wow. I feel like it's a lot better to get service from a hometown provider and that they're probably going to respond more quickly.
Yeah, I looked that up, that contract up, or the money that they got, the rural development. USDA provided $45.5 million direct loan to Belmont County, apparently, combined with a $15 million grant through the water and waste disposal loan program. Now that's where the money's coming from, and they're going to build that. I think it's a fair question to say, well, does that change?
Yeah, is there any ability for us to be tapped into that? I mean, Aqua is going to pay St. Clairsville over $10 million, and I'm sure that that money would be appreciated. But my question too was, then where is this money going to go? Can we set it aside in a trust that if they are not providing our water correctly and doing their due diligence, can we buy it back? And I was told, no, it has to go into capital improvements. And again, I don't know where to look to verify that, but it seems like we should be able to put our money as a contingency fund, that if we need it to buy back our water, we could.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I've quoted it before. My father went to the Naval Academy, and so I've got that train of thought very strongly in my mind. And Alfred Mahan, who was a naval historian, and I know Jim could tell me Themistocles, I think, originally said it, but he who controls the ocean controls the world. And I firmly believe that he who controls our water will control our town. So I want to know, again, the process is as transparent as the clean water I expect.
Well, I think those are good thoughts, and you're right on the money. And I want to congratulate you for doing this. It's very good to see this happening. You and I know each other for about 10 years now,
Absolutely.
I think. And you know that I believe strongly in speaking up to the government when you need to. And so you make me proud.
Well, thank you very much. And one thing I'd like to mention, too, next Monday night, July 15th, there will be a rally, a citizens' rally, and information prior to council meeting in St. Clairsville. That will be in front of the municipal building at 6:30. Again, July 15th. I urge you to come, because if we don't act on this, we will get the government we deserve. So I'm asking anyone who also is concerned about knowing the fate of our water, please come to this rally at 6:30 on July 15th.
Well, I think that's a good thing for people to get together and do something about this. And, you know, it may well be that selling it to the private sector turns out to be a good thing.
That's exactly right.
It could be a good thing, and I don't think that's what you're saying.
It is not what I'm saying.
Nobody's challenging you can't do this. They're saying you need to explain to the people in St. Clairsville why you don't have a solid contract, why you're not giving information to the public about what's going on with their water. And I think a little transparency and discussion by our city fathers there would help clear this problem up. But the more they keep quiet, I really feel, in listening to what you're saying and what I read about this, the way they're going about the contracting, I see some other company being able to come back in here and start a big lawsuit about how this was done.
I don't know. I just know that there was a meeting, and I believe that was in early May at the rec center. I didn't know about it my bad. I didn't know. I think maybe it was in the paper. But this has gained so much more momentum, and it's like a rock rolling down the hill. A lot of people are reaching out to me. There's a lot more interest, and there are a lot more questions. So we are inviting the mayor and the council to please come to this meeting at 6:30 next week. And again, we've got a lot of people who are very interested who didn't really know about it before and are now saying, what is going on? We want to know exactly what other options may have been explored. So that's where we are.
Well, I think that's a good place to be, and I want to thank you for coming in and explaining this. I'm sure that the folks at home learned something, and so did I.
Thank you, and I hope they show up next week.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
And we'll have to end here. I want to thank you for joining today's History Upper Ohio Valley. I'm Bob Connors, your host, and on behalf of the great people at ESV Teleproductions, we'll see you next time.